Testing, testing. Okay. Yeah, mine is completely quiet.
Okay, it's 6:34. I'm gonna call the Planning and Zoning Board meeting of May 2nd, 2023 to order. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. The first matter to handle today is the approval of the minutes from the April 4th, 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the meetings.
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Seeing none opposed, the motion passes. Before we move on, Madam Clerk, can we call roll?
Board Member Fernandez,
Present.
Board Member Senra,
Present.
Board Member Leoncio is absent, Board Member De La Sierra is absent, Board Member Julia is absent, Vice Chairwoman Matos,
Present.
Chairwoman Yanes.
Present.
You have quorum.
Thank you. And next three items we have are for public, quasi-judicial and public comments. Does anyone have public comments though before getting to the items? So any public comments unrelated to the items that are going to be put forth today?
I see two individuals online, but if they would like to speak, just please unmute yourself and you would have 3 minutes.
Okay. No? Okay. So moving on then to item number 5.
Yes, Your Honor. Definitely, Your Honor. Please all be aware that some of the items that we're going to be discussing this evening are quasi-judicial in nature. Opportunity for this person to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and the staff have made their presentation on each of the items. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Soon after I read this, the clerk will go ahead and take the oath from all those folks that will be testifying. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Any person presenting documents to the board should provide the town clerk with a minimum of 10 copies. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedure may be obtained from the clerk. And Your Honor, the first matter that we have is a variance, but I think before that we should take the oath.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you administer the oath?
Everybody
So-
wishing to speak on any of the items, please rise and raise your right hand.
For those that just stepped in, if you wish to speak or testify on any of the items, please raise your right hand.
And repeat after. Do you swear to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God? You may be seated.
Moving first, to the first item.
The
Please
first item, Chair, is item variance 2023-0082 Miami Lakes HY Real Estate LLC. And this is a matter that was tabled from the last meeting.
Coral Gables 33134. I'm here asking for a deferral until the August meeting. I've already notified staff of my intention to ask for a deferral.
So what you would need to do is just make a motion to further table the item until August.
So I will make a motion to allow him to further table to the next meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Seeing none opposed. So it carries over to the next one. Thank you very much.
See
Thank
how
you.
it goes.
The next matter, Chair, is zoning matter 2020. Do we want to take it out of order? Or just go through the order. Okay. Zoning matter 2023-0126. This is regarding Miami-Dade County Library Department. At this time, if any of you have had any ex parte communication, this would be the time to disclose it. If not, then we can proceed for the town to make its presentation. Okay, so the way we'll proceed is the town will make its presentation first, and then we'll allow the applicant to approach the podium and discuss it with you.
Hello. So this is Olivia Schock on behalf of the Planning Department. For this request, the applicant is requesting an amendment to the official zoning map, a rezoning, to change their property, as mentioned above, from a residential townhouse designation to a special business district. And again, it's for the property listed above. So the applicant is requesting to rezone for this property as part of a larger development that they are doing to remodel and expand the library on that same site. The current zoning of the property is a residential townhouse, and the library constitutes as an existing non-conforming use. But because they are changing they're not changing the use of it because they're changing the property, it requires them to change the zoning in order to be able to do that. So they would not be able to continue their development without changing the zoning, which is why they are here today. They are planning to bring the town council a site plan application on the second hearing, but it should stand on its own merit. The staff is recommending in favor of this rezoning due to the fact that according to the complies with 9 out of 10 of the requirements that we go to. The 10th just being that it is determined by town council. So out of the 9 that we are reviewing, they comply with all 9 of them. In this proposal, it's basically just making a continuance so that the existing zoning of the property is as similar with the use.
Thank you. Applicant. If you could state your name and your address before starting. Thank
Yes,
you.
Angel Lopez, architect, 8950 Southwest 74th Court, Suite 1204, Miami-Dade, Florida 33156. And so, yes, what we are requesting is a rezoning. The property is currently zoned as RUTH, residential townhouse district. It is a library, and we'd like to rezone it to BU2, special business district.
Does anybody have any questions for him?
I do, through the chair. So I have interest in the area. I live in close proximity, and I don't see anybody here from Windmill Gate Homeowners Association or the board management company. Have you been in communication with them?
Yes, I believe we sent out flyers for specifically for the project that we were going to be presenting.
I'm sorry, that's really not what I was asking. Have you had any communication with the board directly pertaining to this? Because there's certainly some impact on the residential. It's 240 units that are in close proximity that have shared that space. And if you're changing the zoning as it abuts a residential area, there would be some things that certainly would impact security, privacy, parking. Is there going to be a fence? I mean, I get that those things are forthcoming, but I would
Yeah.
like to at least know that as an entity, you've been in communication with that association and or management company.
Oh, go ahead.
Eric Myers, same address, 8950 Southwest 74th Court, Suite 1204. We haven't yet. We right now, what we're doing right now is a zoning change, but as far as the next two hearings, we're doing a public outreach at the library to show the size and scope and nature of what's going to happen to the library. Really, the only thing that we're looking now is for the property to be zoned for the current use that's there, which is a library. It's, as we said, it's non-conforming. When the deed was first given to the library, I think in the 70s, it should have been changed then. About 20 years ago, there was a letter from Miami-Dade Public Library System sent to Miami Lakes, and it's before Miami Lakes had a building department established, and I think there was a private entity doing zoning. And there was agreement at the time that it was going to be changed to a business use so the library can be there. So we're really just getting the use that's established to be proper for the site. But we are planning that outreach meeting before the site plan approval and going through the other process for the actual project that we're doing.
So then the answer would be no, there
It hasn't
been
occurred yet,
dialogue
correct.
At this juncture.
Yeah, the zoning change is really just a necessity because it exists as a library to maintain it as a library.
I remember the days when nobody really was quite sure who owned Windmill Gate Road, whether it was the libraries or the towns or the association. So intimately involved in that area right there.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question.
Okay.
So the way I see it, the figure 2, that's what's zoned now, right? And the proposed zoning map is just to cover, I guess, that other area, which is your parking lot area, and that it kind of runs parallel with Windmill Gate.
Yes, that's correct.
So what is it right now? It's being used as the parking lot for the library anyways.
Correct.
If I can, there's a park that's adjacent from the library, the parking lot. There's a park area before you get to the road that abuts the townhome community. That's there.
We're keeping that as is.
You're keeping the park area as is?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if my fellow board members.
No, I don't have any questions.
Anything else?
That's good.
Do we have anyone else to wish to speak on this item? No. Okay, so then we'll close the commentary on this for discussion amongst the board. I don't know. Thank you.
Thanks.
And to the chair too, Ms. Alonso. So am I correct in assuming that any communication with the Windmill Gate would come from the library or the Miami-Dade at this juncture? Am I correct? You have not been in communication with that?
No, this would be a private conversation between them. At some point, if the HOA chooses to discuss anything with me, obviously I would be available to them as well. But no, I wouldn't be reaching out to the HOA.
Thank you.
Is that your question?
The change in the zoning status. What would it change? Because I guess that's what they're asking for. They're not asking for building anything or changing anything now. It's just the change of the
Correct.
status.
So right now, the library is what we call, I know that we've discussed these terms before, an existing non-conforming use. It is something that was built sometime in the 70s, 80s. It was built without rezoning the underlying, without changing the underlying zoning. The comp plan was amended, but not the underlying zoning. What that creates is a condition where the town allows whatever use is there to continue as long as it's continued. However, when they try to expand and add square footage, now they're gonna intensify the degree of nonconformity. So we're basically making it worse. The town cannot allow them to make it worse, even if it would be allowed for it to continue. And that's why they're asking for it at this point, because they have a very sweet little project that's coming in, going to a hearing maybe in July, we're hoping, to the town council. And this is in preparation for that, so that hearing can go forth and get, properly heard.
Through the chair. So I think the logical, if this would have been kind of easy if it would have just been, we're changing the zoning because it was never correct. And I think the logical use for that is to change it to the BU. But seeing that they're adding 5,000 square feet makes it more complicated and it makes it tougher for, yeah.
I think you should, to put this in the proper posture, really what they're going to do in the future is not before you. So you're not seeing that. What you're seeing today is a change in zoning to, as Ms. Alonso put it, go ahead and change what is already a non-conforming use, because you're not allowed to put a library in a residential zone, right? It's only in a business zone. So it's to make the library, the zone correct. I understand what you're saying, that this is a condition precedent to be able to do what they want to do, understood, but that's not what's before you. So once that happens, that'll come before this P and Z board. You'll be able to beat that up and be able to address that at this point.
Actually, no, the site plan would never come
Would
to
never
the
come.
PNC.
Okay.
The site plan goes straight to the town council.
Okay, but the council would be able to review it and.
Yes.
Correct. And there will
Correct.
be,
Chew on it.
there will be an
Public hearings.
extensive staff report that goes along with that site plan. That will discuss all issues about parking, circulation, what happens with the park, what doesn't happen with the park. All those details will be beat at its own time. At this point, the fact that they're planning to do that other project, which may or may not end up happening, because right now it's just an application, as far as I'm concerned, is the triggering mechanism by which they appear in front of you today. Because maybe if they weren't going to do that project, maybe we could be like this for another 20 years.
If I can, to the chair, Ms. Alonso, is there any possibility that the library expansion or changes don't happen and something else steps in that space? What is the protection for the residents in that area that will not happen?
And this is a private enforcement. So there's a deed restriction on the property that is enforced privately by the Grahams and their architectural control committee that basically prevents anything from happening on that land other than a library. The land was deeded to the county with the restriction that it would only be used for library and for public use. So it would take some sort of, trial. I don't know. That would be,
It
how
would
do
be-
you undo that is a question for him.
It would be it would be a private challenge in court to deal with a deed restriction, because it's a covenant that is in favor of the Graham companies. So they would have to literally surrender it, right? So.
For that, I just wanted to make sure, obviously, anybody who's listening after this meeting tonight is at least aware that that is in place and that it isn't just the potential for somebody else to step in and take over that space if this project doesn't go forward. Thank you.
Correct.
Am I correct in viewing this as, this is essentially, I know it's not a BU right now, but that's what it's being used for, right? That's what it's been used for this whole time, only we're basically putting it in its correct lane now. right?
Correct. Correct.
This is all residential and we gave them a special use of it, but now we're gonna clean it up and say this is BU and it's the deed restriction that it could only be the library.
Correct. And if you think about it, the way that we usually think about these things, you basically had two choices here. You see the light purple right adjacent, that's in light industrial. That's the firehouse. We have a little bit of a similar issue with the firehouse, even though the firehouse at least is zoned industrial, which is not, it doesn't constitute an existing non-conforming use. It's at least an allowable use on the area. Would we want that site to be used for an industrial purpose? Should the firehouse go away? Probably not, but that's what would be allowed right now. At the same time, if you start thinking about which of the two adjacent uses would you like to expand into this area, obviously it would not be the industrial use. It would be the one on the other side, which is the BU2. And that's how we came up to the to the decision of what was going to be the request. And that's how the BU2 comes about.
Thank you.
Again, to the chair. Will there be, as we go down the pipeline with this traffic studies to see how much more additional traffic will come into that intersection? Is that all part of this or it is not?
So the site plan approval process does take traffic into consideration, mostly for the purposes of mobility fees. Now, because this is a public use, the mobility fees may or may not come into play. I believe we are, can you help me refresh my memory? I'm asking of the applicant, did I request the additional traffic study from you or not? No, I haven't. And their application is still like in diapers. So we're not there yet. There's a lot that I haven't looked at and a lot that hasn't been, like, I haven't counted trees. I have no idea if the sidewalks are adequate. So there's still a lot that is not spoken between us. But an ordinary site plan approval process does take into consideration traffic implications, mostly from the point of view of, does this impact their mobility fee status, right? Are we increasing the amount of traffic in a way that would require for them to pay additional into a mobility fee? Now, being that this is a public interest institution, I'm not sure how that impacts their mobility fees because I have not looked into it yet. But that, yes, that would be part of their site plan approval process.
To the chair. So this property is owned by Dade County Public Library.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. And we are sure that, of course, I think everybody's concern is that, they're not going to come up with something else other than a library, and there is some restrictions there, as you mentioned before. They're
Correct.
guaranteed that are not going to,
Again, they're private restrictions.
Yeah.
They're not restrictions that the town would be enforcing at any point,
right. Okay.
nor can we.
Nor can we. We can't enforce those. Those are private and they're granted to the Grams. The Grams are the only ones that can enforce those.
If I can, to the board, obviously, living right there. Am I interested in this? Of course I am. Do I find it just a little surprising that they haven't reached out or haven't been in communication with Windmill Gate at this juncture? I do. So if the recommendation, if the thought process is that, yes, it's a library, we're going to keep it as a library, that seems to be what everybody's thinking. I don't know if this is possible because I don't know that this has ever come in front of, I don't think I've seen this type of situation before, have we? Where we've been a non-conforming use where now we're conforming the use?
No, not even, no, not in a while.
So I don't know if it makes sense. Obviously, what we're doing tonight is recommending to the council, correct? And this doesn't come to us, am I right? We're making a recommendation to the town council on this.
You're reviewing it. You are the local planning agency for the town. So it is, obviously, this is planning, right? This is
Right.
zoning. So you are to give a recommendation to the town council. I'm not sure that it would be appropriate to really discuss anything with regards to the site plan. But if you are concerned about a business use and what the impact could be to residential areas, you could put that on the record, that you would like the council to just have an eye on that and make sure that it won't have an impact. I guess you could do that, but you have to make sure that whatever you're doing is really within the context, not of a site plan. You're not doing a site plan review
Right.
today.
And
It's
that's
zoning.
that's my point, that we stay within, we're just making a recommendation on the zoning. That being said, I don't know if we could also add to our recommendation that communication, obviously, the next go around needs to include Windmill Gate and the association and management company.
You can make
You
a
can
recommendation.
yeah, you can make a recommendation like that. Yes, that would be appropriate.
That's not appropriate.
So
that's not
certainly that would
inappropriate.
be my recommendation.
So
both
Right.
items, that the council is aware of our concerns, obviously, that because the town does not have that jurisdiction, it's a private entity, and that the association, because the residents that are there, that their interests are taken into consideration.
I want to share a story about a friend of mine who actually got a church. He's a pastor at a local church. He was gifted a church outside of town. This is a pastor from Broward, gifted a church in Hialeah with a covenant from the Grahams where it would to remain a church. He made an agreement after he didn't want to move forward with that church. He made an agreement with the Grahams. That's money, probably upwards of millions of dollars, right? I don't see them wanting to, to sell it off, but they would need permission from the Grahams. But has the Grahams done it? Yes. They actually went into agreement and they split the profits. So they went in half and they said, okay, we're going to lift the deed restriction. We'll sell the church. They found a buyer. They weren't going to keep it as a church any longer, but they agreed to do it and they were going to split the profit. So that's possible. It could come up. I don't know. I don't believe that Miami-Dade County Public Library really has any intention of doing that, especially after investing what they're going to invest in it, but it could come up in the future.
Good point.
Right. I think we're definitely all cognizant that an agreement today can be modified tomorrow. As much as, we don't know what's going to happen. I believe that as the applicants, as architects, I think they're coming forward to be able to zone it for the way it's been used, but not properly identified is how I see it. That's how it's being used this whole time. That's how it's been used since the 70s, but it just was never properly done.
Correct.
And I think that's what both the town.
And if I may
say.
add, just to maybe allay all your fears as to anything like that happening, should the proverbial downstairs freeze over, and should the Grahams decide that they no longer wish to have a library here, and should the library system in Miami-Dade County decide they no longer have use for this property as a library, and should they wish to use it as a business use, it would become a similar kind of development as to what it is ever so slightly to the north of it. Sorry, did I say that? Not to the south of it, right? So it would also have to come in through the site plan development process. We would process it like we process all the other site plan developments. We would consider traffic, we would consider all these things, and we would consider the adjacency of the neighboring Windmill Gate and what happens with that so these were all things that would come through this department and through this method that we use for everything else, and we would deal with it appropriately as well. So I just, there's no reason to think that this is gonna just open a Pandora's box of new uses that would not be appropriate for the site, because a BU2 use would be appropriate at this location. It would 100% be okay to have this developed as a BU2.
And it's how it's been used this whole time.
But importantly, I think what you said is important for all of you to know. It's appropriate because adjoining uses are BU2s, so you can zone this as BU2. If it weren't that case, it'd be isolated, then we'd be talking about something completely different here, and we'd have to be very careful. So yes, you can do it because adjoining uses are BU2s.
And that's what we mean when we say that this stands on its own merit, that it really has, the fact that it's bringing the non-conforming use into concurrency, the fact that it is, those are all pluses, but they're not the reason why. The reason why is because this would be appropriate as a BU2 and probably not as a residential, right? Which is what is zoned right now. Like, we would not want to put additional townhomes here ever, right? Because that would be basically living in not a very nice place, right? It's too close to the highway and not.
Right. Okay, well, so unless there's further discussion, I would put forth a motion to go with the town's recommendation to approve the proposed rezoning to a BU2.
I'll second it.
friendly amendment to recommend as well to the oversight, the things that we've discussed as far as pertaining to communication with the association and just that we want to be sure that this does continue to move forward as a library. I think as a board, we can make that recommendation along with approving to the town council. That would be my request for a friendly amendment.
So we have the friendly amendment, a second.
I second.
So we have Madam Clerk, did you get the amendment to the motion?
The amendment to the motion is to add the oversight of the communication with the association when talking about this project.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Would we like further discussion or prepare to vote? Can you call? Oh, thank you.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Senra,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Matos,
Yes.
Chairwoman Yanes.
Yes,
The motion passes.
thank you. Thank you. No, it's been amended back to the original. Okay, on to the next one.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. The next matter that will be before you is matter variance number 2023-0121, Manuel Yabore Jr. And from this one, we'll have the town give its presentation first. And I just, something that I want to do before you give your presentation. No, go ahead. Yeah. Is just kind of put the town count, the board in the proper posture. So you understand this is a variance, but it's a little bit of a unique variance because what it is, it's a modification of an existing order that was already entered by this board. So what you're doing is and the applicants speak a little bit more about it and the town will speak a little bit more about it, but we're asking is a modification of that order. So this is not a brand new variance, it's a modification of an existing variance.
Thank you.
Yes. So as he said, this property at 7771 Northwest 160th Terrace, the applicant is seeking a modification of conditions for the variance adopted via resolution 06481Z to allow a replacement of a registered boat of 25 feet and 6 inches with a 26-foot boat, where an equal or smaller boat was specified and beyond the stipulated 180 days. So just for background on what that actual order is, the town's LDC prohibited boat storage in residential properties since January 2005. At that time, they did a registration program for all existing boat owners who were storing them at their property. So the stipulations for that were one that you get to keep your boat, you have to register with the town. If you get a new boat, it has to be smaller than his originally registered boat, and that the application that you're submitting to register is submitted with 180 days of the purchase of the new boat. And if those applications are not met, the existing non-conforming status ceases when the property is sold or transferred to a new owner. So this was transferred by owner. So as far as the staff recommendation, the staff is recommending denial for this proposal as going through these items. The property and the situation does not comply with 6 out of 7 of the items. The one it does comply with is item D, that the variance could be approved without causing substantial detriment to adjoining properties. It complies with that one, but the others it does not comply with. And yes, this is in a single family low density district.
I do have a question. The original variance
Yes.
granted them the ability because they were late, right? Initially to register it, they were late. What amendment do they want to do to the original variance?
So if I'm not mistaken, interrupt me if I say anything wrong right now, but they were allowed to, at the time of this ordinance, they were allowed to adopt their boat, have it. If you did it with 180 days, you just submit to register. If I'm not mistaken, this applicant missed the 180-day window. So they're seeking to basically get a variance to allow for their boat that is 6 inches larger than their old boat and to allow with registration that is missed the 180-day mark.
If they would have been timely within the 180 days, would it have been granted?
It would be you'd still need a variance for the larger boat,
Okay.
but they wouldn't need a variance for the 180 days if it was filled within 180 days. So it's kind of like two variances. in
But they
one.
would have been able to, they would have been able to have the boat, but they would need a variance for a bigger size.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Which is contrary to the regulation that was stated originally.
Yes. So the
If they-
regulation,
If a new boat were to appear, it would have to be smaller, not
Yes.
bigger.
yes. So essentially with this, when they purchase, so this, if you have an existing boat that you're allowed, that you had registered with the property when this thing came about in 2005, the stipulation was that if you got a new boat, it had to be of equal or smaller size. And if you were going to purchase a larger boat, he would have had to apply for a variance for the larger boat. But if the boat had stayed the same or equal or smaller, there would not be a need for a variance.
Right.
But yes, you're correct. There would still be a need for a variance with this new boat because it is larger.
Right, okay. Thank you.
If the applicant or anybody else wishes to speak on, come forward and please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Manuel Yaboré. I live at 7771 Northwest 163rd. No, basically she stated what I needed to say. We changed the boat. I wasn't aware that, I knew the limit of the boat was 26 feet, 13 feet high, whatever. And I wasn't aware that I couldn't have a bigger boat. So I just basically changed it. Back in 2020, we received a citation or a violation or warning. I came over here to the city and I registered the boat. I brought the registration. I met with Susana Alonso over here in this hall. And 3 years later, I received another citation where it says that I didn't register the boat. Since then, I pay a fine for $1,750, which is already paid. And all I ask is to please, just make an exception, I guess. This is part of the family. You know, my kids, I'm an original owner about 1999, 2000. When this was Dade County, and I built my house with the purpose of having a boat. You know, you can see my house is offset. My driveway is built the way, to put a boat. This is what we do. We work and we fish. We enjoy, the saltwater. That's all I got.
I do have a question for you. You purchased the home in 99, 2000, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the deed? Does the deed allow you to have a boat?
The deed?
Yeah, the deed to the home.
Yeah, I have it at home. My house is paid for.
Does your deed allow you, does it permit you the use of a boat on your property?
Huh?
Does it permit you, does the deed say you're allowed to have a boat on your property?
It was Dade County back then. Dade County didn't have any,
I understand that, but I'm asking you what your deed says.
I'm not sure. I have to look it up.
Okay, and you don't have copies for us?
I don't think so. Let me look.
If I can, to the chair, sir. So again, would you walk me through this timeline? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Would you walk me through the timeline? So initially you bought the boat and help me out here because if maybe I'm not clear. So you bought the boat and you had to get a variance the first time, correct? Because the boat
no,
was not allowed.
no. Okay. I had the boat since before I even lived there. It was a 1998 boat. I bought it. I failed to grandfather to register with a time limit that the city gave. So since then I have a boat, since I moved. I mean, you could Google Earth back to, I don't know if you can, but it's been there. I fell back in 2006. I don't know, I sent the paper, I think, sometime in that timeline. I came over here because I received the citation for having a boat without a permit. The variance was approved. Since then, I sold the boat because we went through some hard times and I needed money. So I sold the boat and I bought a new boat. When I bought the new boat, I knew that the limits with the city was 26 feet. So I bought a boat that was within the city limits. And I failed to register. In 2000, we received the citation. And I came over here and I registered the boat, brought the registration, filled out the paperwork, and they told me I had to pay a fine. I never received that fine. Since 2003 now, I received another violation where it says that the boat is not registered, that I have to register the boat. I came over here, they told me you had to apply for a variance. I did. You had to pay a fine. I did. And that's where we are.
Through the chair. I just want to clarify first the dates, because you're saying 2003, 2000 and 2003, but what you mean is 2020 and 2023, right?
Yeah, 2020 and now in 2023.
So can you give me the month and the year that you purchased a new boat?
The month and the year. September 2018.
The new boat.
Yes,
So then you came in 2020, you had 180 days, you had 6 months
yes.
to
I came
register the
2
new.
years later. Yes,
2
sir.
years later
I'm
you
aware
did it.
there.
Okay.
But again, I wasn't aware that I have to register the boat with the city. I thought since we had the variance approved, I was able to have a boat within the limits.
Mr.
The
Galore.
years are not 2000, as you were saying, it's 2020. Am I right? Am I, I'm
Yes,
sorry. It
2020.
was very confusing, right? Because you're talking 2000 and when in reality it was 2020.
When you ask
Correct.
2020, what do you ask? 2020, I bought the house in 2000. Since 2000, I had a boat. I sold the boat sometime 2015, 2016, in that area. In 2018, we bought a new boat.
So the timeline of the 6 months or the 180 days in which you would have needed to
Would have been from
replace that with
2018
a smaller
To
boat
2020.
and register it within that timeline. I do have a question for Ms. Alonso, but we'll wait until he's finished. Okay, thank you.
How big is this boat?
26 feet,
Okay.
6 inches bigger than the old.
Before you were 25 and
6,
25 at 6, and this is 26.
yes.
Okay. I want to clarify based on what I've read and based on what you said, and I want you to correct me if what I'm saying is wrong, because there's a little kind of confusion going back and forth, and I really want to kind of nail this in my head, okay? When you bought the house, you were able to have a boat, right?
Yes,
Okay. At that time, the residents were allowed to grandfather in, and you failed to apply for the grandfathering in, correct?
yes,
Okay. Once you missed that, you came for a variance to allow you to grandfather in as everyone else did at that time, and you would have been able to have you had been timely, right?
yes,
Okay. Thereafter, you said you came compliant, the variance was approved by this board, but not us, but a different board. Okay. So that was approved and you were compliant up until the point that you sold the boat in 2018 or whenever it was that you sold the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. You repurchased a new boat. And correct me if I'm wrong, you got the boat at 26 because it allows you up to 26, even though the rule says same or smaller. Once you purchased the boat, why didn't you ensure that basically this time you were compliant? What happened in 2018 that made you lapse so long up until the notice in 2020? Because I know you were allowed to have a boat, and there's places here that we don't. I know a lot of people don't like the boat, but you were allowed to have a boat. The issue came when you sold the boat, got a bigger boat, and didn't register it. So what happened?
I just didn't think I needed to register the boat since I was already registered with the city
Okay.
as having a boat.
Okay. And then you mentioned that in 2020, you came here and you spoke to Susana.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you spoke to Susana, you registered it, and then you were
I brought your-
cited, wait, give me a second. Okay. And you were cited for not being registered.
Yes.
You're,
Cited? What do you mean by cited?
you said that you registered in 2020 and then you received a fine for not having
No.
registration.
No,
Okay.
she mentioned that I will have to pay a fine.
Okay, and did you,
That fine never came about.
so what's the $1,750?
It's a fine that I just paid right now.
Okay, ma'am, right, what, we have to be sworn in order to testify. You weren't here when we swore in. So if you're gonna testify, we need to swear you in.
Please raise your right
And I
hand.
can swear you in.
Yes, you have
be
to
sworn
raise
in.
your right hand. You have to raise your right hand if you're gonna testify. I know you weren't here at
Raise
the
your hand.
beginning, but you have to raise your right hand if you're going to speak.
Do you swear to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God?
She can hear me.
Sorry.
She's having trouble hearing.
Do you swear to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God?
Okay,
Yes.
okay, you're good. Okay, you could state your name and your address, please.
My name is Hideo Labor, his wife.
Okay, and your address, ma'am?
The address, your address.
7771 Northwest 160th Terrace, Miami Lake, Florida 33016.
Okay, and are you also the applicant with him? Because it only, okay, okay. Okay, go ahead.
And forgot what I was saying. Oh, on the 2020, when we received the notification, because the inspector came home and he gave us the notice that apparently the boat was not registered. So I was concerned because we already have taken care of that like a few years before. So he came to the town, he spoke to Susanna. No, not her. Not her.
I spoke
was-
to you on the phone in
Uh,
2020.
Susana Alonso. So supposedly everything was taken care of. But then the inspector Daniel, he shows the paper that the reason why we didn't receive supposedly the fine that they mentioned that we were gonna supposed to pay is because the case was closed. They closed the case because apparently on the file, it was already a boat register. So it's like, that's why when we received this notification now, we were so confused. Because the Miami Lakes that is on the file says that the case on 2020 had been closed because it was opened by error, because it was already a registration on the file.
And,
It is on the file, Ms.
Since-
Daniel shows the file.
so since
So
20,
that's why we were so confused. And he was wondering why back then we didn't receive the notification of paying the fine. And now we receive another another violation so that's why we were so confused what's going on.
do you have
The
any,
paper says, 2020, 6 days later after the notification, the case was closed because it was already, a bottom file.
give me a second. When did you buy your boat?
When did I buy my boat?
Yeah, the most
20
recent one,
2018.
but on or
2018
about
or
when?
2019, I'm not sure.
Why don't you have any neighbors writing in support?
Huh?
Neighbors, what do your neighbors say?
My neighbors, I have a neighbor here.
Okay. If you have anybody that is going to testify, I know some of you came in late and that's fine. But if you intend to speak on behalf of any of the items that you're welcome to, but we would need to swear you in beforehand.
You're going to speak? Would you like to speak on the item?
Is it okay if one of the speakers speaks Spanish? Can we accommodate?
I guess so, yeah, right?
We don't speak
Yeah.
Spanish.
I mean, we all speak Spanish. Okay. You don't.
Dale, José.
Oh, Lynn, sorry, Lynn.
Yeah, Lynn doesn't.
Gracias por permitirme hablar en español.
Espera un
Swear,
momento.
tiene que jurar.
Yeah, he was sworn in at the beginning.
He was
He was sworn in.
Yeah,
Em,
you can't remember.
Pero necesito que tú me dices tu nombre y tu dirección, señor.
Ok. Mi nombre es José Ibarra. Yo vivo en el 7760 Northwest 160 Terras. Llevo 22 años viviendo en la misma dirección.
Háblame más en el micrófono, por favor.
Llevo 22 años viviendo en la misma dirección. Mi vecino compró en la misma fecha que compré yo.
Espera un momentito. 22 years. He's his neighbor. about the same time he did, lives neighbors to him.
I'm sorry, but the proper way, I just came in, heard this, is he needs to have somebody translate for him to swear in that they can translate.
That's what I thought.
So that you cannot accept Spanish translate. I mean, this is, can't do that.
Yeah.
So you have to strike out anything that he's just said.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry.
we're gonna move to strike anything that he just said or that I translated for him in Spanish.
Yeah.
I
You
think it
can?
has to be a certified.
No, she can
Okay.
translate, yeah.
We need your name and your
My name
address.
is Amanda Ibarra. My address is 7760 Northwest 160th.
Okay, so raise your right hand.
Swear in. Do you swear to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Okay, and also, do you swear to translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English to the best of your ability?
yes.
Okay, so the way it'll work is that he'll say, we'll ask the question, he answers it to you in Spanish, and you translate it in English.
Okay.
Okay, so take your time in doing it, okay?
Okay.
It's a little clunky.
He has been a neighbor for 22 years. Dime.
Yo llevo 22 años viviendo en la misma dirección. Cuando Manny compró, el señor Yaboré compró, mandó a hacer los planos, cambió los planos de la casa para poder tener el bote que en aquellos
Yeah.
momentos
So when he bought his home 22 years ago, he followed the proper procedure and had his home, he built that gate in his home to comply, bueno, sí, because he custom built.
porque en aquellos momentos permitían tener
At that time, they allowed the boat to be on premise.
él ha tenido él ha tenido el bote durante todos estos años y ningún vecino ha tenido complaint porque él haya tenido el bote. Nosotros
Espérate, papi, espérate. So no one, to his knowledge, has complained about the boat. He's had the boat for as long as we remember. And he, sí.
nosotros su bote no ha dañado la calidad de vida de nuestras casas ni le han
His boat has not impaired devalued the lifestyle that we live in our block.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. I
No
just- which neighbor are you? The one to the right, to the left, to the
Front.
front? Okay, I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yo soy el vecino del frente de la casa.
Front door neighbor.
Okay, and do you support or not support or are indifferent with him having a boat?
¿Tú apoyas o no apoyas o eres indiferente en Manny tener bote?
Yo apoyo
He supports
y creo que todos los vecinos alrededor de su casa apoyan de la misma forma que lo apoyo yo.
and believes that the neighbors in our block would support him as well.
Es probable que en el año 20, en el año 20, por lo que tengo entendido, él estuvo en la ciudad para arreglar el asunto de la licencia del bote. Y se dio como que se había terminado esa situación. Y ahora en el 2023 ha surgido de nuevo este problema.
He understands that in 2020, Manny came to the town and that he, at the time, filed the documentation and did what he needed to do. And now this issue has arisen.
Okay, I mean, I think he's explained his position that we only wanted to know, at least I do. I don't know if my fellow board members or anything else. The only thing we wanted to know is as a neighbor, do you have an objection? I think you've answered that. Is there anything
He
else we need?
supports the boat.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm also another neighbor. I live in the same home and I also support the boat. And he's another neighbor and he also supports the boat.
Okay, well, you can't testify for other people.
Okay.
And right now you're sworn in really as an interpreter. And I think we don't have any other questions for him. Is there any other neighbor outside of that home that is here to support or to speak on the item? No?
Si quieres hablar de la misma.
If they already live in the same house, that's fine. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. I don't have any further questions for the applicant. I don't know if anybody else does.
I just wanted to put some clarification as far as the code compliance case. So what's happened is that the town is code compliance board runs on what is Florida statutes chapter 162. Under that, what our code compliance officers do is prior to giving a citation, they'll give you a warning. And you have 30 days to come into compliance with that warning. If you don't, then that warning becomes a citation. What's occurred with Mr. Yabor is that he was given a warning by our code compliance. When he was given that warning, he did come in and discuss this with Mr. Angel and with our code compliance folks. What happened after that, and I'm not testifying for Mr. Angel, but I'm testifying as to the actual warning itself. So let me just take a step back and say that. So when what happened is that when he did inform the town of the warning, the town did not proceed to the citation because he informed the town that he was going to ask for a variance. And so the town has stayed any enforcement of a citation. If tonight it doesn't go forward, then that warning will become a citation in which he would have to come into compliance. At this time, he has not been cited. He has just been given a warning.
So what,
Excuse me, through the chair to Mr. Lorenzo, when was the warning given?
I do not have an exact date. I can find out for you if you'd like.
I'd like to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
But, can I say something? I did pay for the citation.
I think maybe what he's confused, you paid for the variance. And that's the fee that you've paid for.
$1,750 for a parent.
That's a variance fee. Yes,
Okay.
you have not been
Oh,
cited.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't. Once
Right.
again.
And I guess, and I agree with the vice chair that if we could get a date, that would be helpful, but if I understand you correctly, you're saying he was warned, he had 30 days, he complied with those 30 days.
He
and
has
is
not
now going,
complied.
so,
He
okay,
has not complied. What he did is he
came in.
and the town gave him kind of a consideration. He said he was going to ask for a variance or rather a modification to an existing variance
Right.
in order to come into compliance. And so that's why the town has just stayed any further enforcement.
I might have misunderstood, but I thought I heard 2020 that he was given that warning. It was a recent warning? We don't know.
I don't know that,
I think what sparked him to come in and tell me if I'm wrong. In 2020, you came and maybe you spoke with Susanna about the boat and trying to register it, correct?
Yeah.
And you had some conversation. Then recently you received that warning. And that's
Yes.
what prompted you to come and speak with Susanna.
Yeah, and
Am I
met with
correct?
Danielle, and they said that that warning was closed because they found a registration in file.
Do you know the difference between the 2020 issue and this issue? Is it the same? Was it really closed and resolved, giving him no notice?
I cannot really speak for code compliance details because that, how they open and close and all that really,
No, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
When a code case is open, the citation is not closed until it comes into conformity. So it has to be come into conformity in order for that to close.
But
And the
did it
fine
really
has to be paid.
close? Did it really close like he said?
The only thing that's been provided so far is a warning.
So in 2020, what is he saying that closed? Nothing?
I'm not sure what happened in 2020, if he has some communication or email. He said that he spoke with Susanna. So the warning was given on 3/7/2023.
Let's give it to the clerk. Oh, there's-
On March 7th, 2023 is when the warning was issued.
Thank you.
But you could see that 2020 was closed.
If I can, to the chair, did you own a boat in 2020?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm-
So that's why it's surprised now, we see again everything.
To his credit, this does look, and I can request a little bit more to look into it, but it appears as though in 2020, they did initiate a warning. Okay, so they did give him a warning on 9/15/2020, according to this. And then on Subsequently, it says that the case was open in error because they had an approved boat registration from 5/29/2012, which they did. But the only thing is that this boat was larger. So then they gave them, I guess, a new warning that occurred now in March. So I can see where the confusion does come from. And if you want me to, I'll circulate this.
And that.
And I'll get confirmation on this in a second. Let me speak to our building manager just to
Yeah.
get confirmed.
I just,
that's
I
what
mean, if we could see that, because I just want to know that if that warning that they told him was resolved and closed because of the prior variance was based upon the boat that we're speaking about today.
Yes, same.
I think so. But
Okay.
I'll get confirmation.
It has to be. There's no other boat.
To the sheriff, how long have you owned this boat, the 26 foot?
This one, 5 years, 6 years.
2018.
Yeah.
This is the same one from 2018?
Yes,
You are aware that 80% of the population here cannot have a boat in their homes, right?
I'm aware.
Do we have any other, well, we want to wait for him to come back before we speak. And just so you know, sir, we don't want to close the questioning now yet because Mr. Leoncio may come back with, I'm sorry, the town attorney may come back with additional information we may want to question you on. So we're going to leave it open, but we do want to wait for him to bring us back that information. Okay?
Madam Chair. All right, so here's the conundrum. I did speak with our building official. Yes, this was open, this was closed. There are reasons why he was cited again with a warning. But if I continue and if I go back and give an explanation, I'm testifying and I cannot testify. Okay, that would require the building official to be here to testify on this evidence. So I think, and it's up to him what he wants to do, right? He's the applicant. But what I would suggest the board to do at this moment is to table this item to allow Mr. Angel to be here, to be able to provide testimony as to what happened with this case and why it was closed and why a new warning was issued. It seems that there is a reason. Maybe there's not, but that's for him to testify, not for me.
I tend to agree with that.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
all good with it. I just wanted to ask something. May I ask staff something, even if we table the item? Yeah, okay. Do we have to, just for posture, do we have to close out because this is a question for staff. So do we have to close out the portion of the testimony from the applicant?
You can ask it.
Okay. Are there any other residents that have expressed interest in modifying their variance that you are aware of?
Not variances themselves. There are other residents that have existing boat registrations that have expressed a desire to obtain variances. There would be new variances and not modifications to existing variances.
So, okay.
I believe it's their choice. So essentially, what the town attorney has indicated is that there may be further information that may or may not change our decision or may not assist us in making the appropriate decision today. You're the applicant. You can request from us to table this and have it be heard later on, where you can have the code enforcement and yourself come back again. And correct me if I'm wrong, what's already been said will remain on the record. So what you've already testified to will carry over. So the testimony of your neighbors is already on the record, and the documentation you've provided us is likewise already submitted. But it's your choice. If you want us to make a decision today, we can certainly proceed. But there is,
Yeah, the issue is, Mr. Yaure, is that you presented us with case details of a case that was open, that it was by error. I've been able to confirm that what you've given me is good evidence, and you guys, and it can be considered by them. But the problem is as to what happened. All right, I have to ask my board to table the item because I need to give you've brought into question Mr. Angel in a conversation you had with Mr. Angel. Mr. Angel's not here to be able to corroborate or explain why this happened and why a new warning was issued. So he needs to be able to give that explanation in order for them to be able to really properly make a decision. So it's my advice to them, not to you, but really to them. I would table this item and allow Mr. Angel to be present, based on this evidence that he's just presented today. He didn't present this before with his application.
right.
He's just presenting this today for the first time.
And at least from my end, and obviously, I don't know what my fellow board members, which is, I would rather have all the information. I think what you just showed us, at least for me, is rather important because it goes to your notice. When did you know what happened? What information they told you? Is it, you know,
As far-
fair? And
as far
let
as
me finish for a second. And at least for me, and this is really kind of a discussion with the board, is I would like to have Mr. Angel here to provide information. I don't like to make a decision without having all the information. That is what I would wish. I don't know how my fellow board members feel, but I prefer to have more information than less. And I think that is rather important for you and for us to discuss. So I would make a motion to table it and have it be addressed the next board meeting where hopefully Mr. Angel can be present, where we can all have a copy of that.
And I want this board to, and I want to put it on the record, and I want this board to know. The reason Mr. Angel wasn't present is because this was not relevant. This was not presented with the variance application. Had we known the existence, had he presented this to us, then obviously we would have had Mr. Angel here to corroborate exactly what had happened. But this was unknown to us.
For the applicant's peace of mind, the town will not be pursuing any more fines during this process.
Absolutely not. All he
Okay.
has is, he doesn't have a citation.
Right.
He just
Right.
has a warning.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
Right. I that's a very good point because I think we have the timeline from when he got it. I don't want him to be further fined because of our choice to delay.
For the record, he hasn't been fined. What he paid was a
Variance.
variance fee. That's it.
You understand that, right, Mr.
Yes,
Cohen?
yes, I understand, but I wanted to say something. I just want you to understand me. I get a citation on 2020. I come in, bring the papers. 6 inches, no problem. We'll register the boat. Right? Here comes and goes. I don't get no other paperwork. Here comes 2023. I get a new citation. Come meet with Mr. Daniel. And he shows me, this is the reason why you didn't get anything on 2020 is because the citation was open and it was closed because there was a registration on file. What do I think? Hey, my registration is on file. Wouldn't you think the same? I would. So here I come, I email her with the registration of the boat and I go, hey, Susana, the boat remains the same. These were exact my words to her. The boat remains the same. What is the problem with the citation? There is no other boat. So here we are, and I'm confused and I'll do whatever you guys want. I mean, we'll proceed, we'll wait for Mr. Angel to be here, but I don't know what's that gonna result because he never made contact, he never called me, he never went to my house, I never got any formal writing from the city saying anything. So.
And I'm sorry,
I'm
but I
not
want
supposed
to
to know.
clarify that because that's not what you've said today. You've said that you had a boat, you sold a boat, bought a new boat, didn't know you needed to register and you didn't register it.
No,
That's
okay,
the- that's- you said
that's what
that.
I say, but we go beyond that.
Right.
I said that, but I'm also saying that on 2020, I
Mhm.
came to the city because I received the citation.
You did.
I registered the boat. They closed the citation because there was a registration on file.
There was an old registration for your prior boat. The one that you
Okay.
had sold. It wasn't for this one that you have today. It was for the prior one. Because you didn't buy this one until 2018. That was your
Then
testimony.
how- then how
Because
do
here
you-
it says,
Okay,
and I'm
okay,
reading
one-
from what you
one-
gave
one
me.
second, one
Wait,
second.
let me read this.
Let me tell
You
something.
said,
Before
let
you
me,
read-
may I
before you
read this?
Sir,
let me
sir,
finish stating.
please, we don't want to talk
I just
over
want-
each
well,
other.
Let me say
this.
something before you.
But let me
read.
read this
How
because
gonna
you have it
close-
circled in green. And it
If you-
says, this case was open in error. They have an approved boat registration from 5/29/2012. The 2012 boat is not the one we're talking about today. We're talking about a boat that, according to your testimony, you purchased in 2018, correct or not?
No.
Answer my
no,
question, correct
no,
or not?
No.
You didn't buy it in 2018.
Hang on, no, hang on one second. Let me.
I
give
just
you
want
my-
to, I want your testimony to be clear because that's not what we're
I
talking
bought it in
about here.
2018. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, Lorenzo.
that's-
Yes, sir.
that's all I want to know.
No,
That's
but
it.
listen to me now.
Sincere.
Listen to what I'm saying. If you are the inspector and you give a violation for 1, 2, 3, 4, and you write a violation for 2, 3, 4, 5, how you gonna close a violation on the wrong boat with the wrong,
And
with
that's,
the wrong information?
Mr. Ebore, you have a point, and I understand, but the people that need to be able to answer that point are not here because it's not either, we don't have Hugo Gonzalez, we don't have Mr. Angel.
But do you
So we need
understand
to
the
have,
confusion and all the problems that we have going through?
I'm not I'm not arguing with you. I understand your confusion, but what I want to do is make sure that everybody here and we're all on the same page.
No,
You had a boat, you sold a boat, you didn't re-register a boat. You recognize that. The confusion lies is that you came,
I stated that.
the
Yes, sir,
confusion
I
lies-
stated it. That
your
we don't- There's no need to repeat.
I understand, no, but
I stated all the
right, your
timelines.
confusion-
2018,
right,
2020.
there's a lot of dates, a lot of dates.
2023.
There's a lot of dates, so I'm trying,
In the same page.
Mr. Ebore,
Yeah,
there's
but
a lot of
Mr.
dates.
Yabore, in order to get your point across, it doesn't really help to talk over the board members or the town attorney. I think what he is trying to say and we're trying to say is we understand where the confusion lies. I actually think the town attorney went through great lengths to acknowledge that you have a point. That being said, it is our decision to determine whether or not that reason, that what you're purporting to be unfair is justified. Ultimately, we're going to make the decision. And in the end, I hear your point. I think the town attorney acknowledges that he hears you have a point, but that's not sufficient in these factors in our determination. And we want you to understand that we're going to take what you found in your confusion, but that's not the only thing we have to take into account. We have to take into account everything, which is why I put forth a motion to table this. And that's what's before the board right now. And I appreciate your commentary. And of course, if it's going to be tabled and if the board decides to grant the motion, because again, I'm only one of 4 today, then we will table it. So right now that's up for discussion, but really the argument and talking over the town attorney really just doesn't help your argument very much. So I have a motion. Is there,
I second the motion.
do we need discussion? Okay, well, you're right. So we're we need to close the public hearing because it's not going to be as there. So we're going to close your commentary now. You could sit down, please. Thank you.
We don't have to pay again for another meeting.
No, it's closed for right now. No, we'll give it to you at the end. Yeah, you want to give her the paper now?
But you've brought this as evidence, so we need to take it as evidence.
Yeah, we need to take that.
Unless you don't want to present that as evidence. Okay? I understand, but you brought this as evidence to a hearing, so I've got to keep it as evidence. We can make copies for it. Can we make copies for it? I'm going to give it to the clerk. The clerk is going to give you a copy, but we got to keep this one. Yes.
She's
And
gonna give
understood
you
you
a
were
copy.
supposed to bring 10 copies with you, but
Hmm. Okay. So now that that's closed, I put a motion. There was a second. Do we want to discuss?
I don't have anything to discuss.
I don't need it.
I'm ready to vote.
May I call roll?
Please.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Senra,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Matos,
On tabling it, yes.
Chairwoman Yanes.
Yes.
The motion passed. The item is tabled.
So it'll be tabled. Susanna will be in contact with you. It'll be heard at a later planning and zoning meeting date,
August,
August.
August 1st,
So it'll be heard August 1st.
same time. I will send you the agenda the next time.
Yes.
Same as I did last time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will send you the agenda of the August 1st meeting and it should be in there.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
She's making your copies if you want to wait for them.
yeah, she's making the copies. You have it. She's making you a copy.
We still have the director's report. Okay. We have the director's report. Thank you.
August 1st, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, a little bit of a director's report. As you know, there's no June or July planning board. We will be meeting again in August 1st.
So that all three of these items that we didn't hear
Two, and
Come back.
whatever else walks in.
Okay.
There's another couple of items floating.
Thank you. So with that, see everyone August 1st. The meeting is adjourned. It is 7:51. Thank you, everybody.